Green is going to describe to us again. We want to be clear that the agenda that we're working with started with the Baptist Ministers Alliance and the concerned clergy. We want to applaud everybody for coming alongside and being a part of the platform that was created in this meeting. So we just want people to know who are the actual originators of the movement of the Black Agenda in the last 60 days, and that was with these two groups. And so now we've also been working with trying to reduce violence and homicides. And some time ago, Baptist Ministers Alliance, concerned Clergy, and Safe Surrender came up with the idea of talk it out, shoot it out. And it's getting some traction. We have some signs here that you can hang in your businesses and in your churches to where we can give our community opportunity to call Connect Help 211, which will give wraparound services for any aspect of help that is needed in the community. We're going to move along. We're going to get going. We don't want to prolong the time. We want to give Mr. Merritt as much time as he needs and give you opportunity to ask questions so that we can make sure that this Afro-American agenda will be publicized and move in a direction that we can understand that we're going to get some results out of it. I want to introduce one of our great community leaders. Dr. David Green is coming, pastor of Purpose of Life and the concerned clergy, and he's going to get us rolling. Let's give him a hand.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Just briefly, I want to summarize for those that weren't present at the initial meeting so we'll clearly understand what this presentation will focus on. We did a presentation to the mayoral candidates concerning deserts that have been created as a result of systemic racism in our community. Now, we understand there are numerous deserts in our community, but we focused on three, and that was the education desert, the public safety desert, and the economic desert. Now, that is not to minimize a health desert, a food desert, or environmental desert. We understand there are other deserts that exist in our community, but we focused on those three. So I want us to understand that so that when Senator Merritt presents, that's what he's focusing on, because that's what we challenged him with. The education desert, which clearly exists in our community. If you've seen the I-Learn scores, especially for Marion County, they are egregious for people of color. The public safety desert, take a look at the number of shootings that have happened in the last 24 hours. And the economic desert, many of our people of black and brown are living in poverty. So that's why we focused on those three deserts rather than some of the other deserts that are clearly just as, well, not quite as important in my mind. But these are important and need to be addressed. We want to give time now for him to come and share his presentation with all of us, and then if there's time left, we will take on some questions. Senator Merritt, would you come?
Can we just take a moment to set up?
Sure, that's fine. Is everything that's on that needs to be?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get the longer range?
Senator Merritt, do you have a smart copy for us?
Yes, I do.
I'm plugged in. Not showing up.
So not the lights, Carmen, we're gonna be so loud.
Turn out the lights.
It just, yeah, it should be warming up.
Senator Merritt is getting set up so that he can make his presentation. If everybody would just hold on for a second, they'll be ready here. When they get ready, we will resume the programming. There goes the lights. He's got a PowerPoint evidently, and we'll tune you right in. Okay. We're moving. As y'all know, that is Win-Win James, who is his campaign manager. She's doing a good job helping him out.
All right, there we go.
Okay. So now it looks like they're ready.
We ready to go, Marshawn?
Does that work for them?
Hey, very much, thank you very much for allowing me to make this presentation. The presentation that Pastor Green moved me. And obviously, we have the 3 deserts in Indianapolis. And we have a mission to provide a plan to achieve my vision for Indianapolis and recognize the needs of the black community and change actions to address those needs. Let's start with the education desert, the problem. Every child deserves a high-quality, high-performing school. Some students in certain areas, certain neighborhoods may not know what school he or she will go to from year to year because of school closings. High quality and high performing schools. These are well-equipped schools. They have qualified teachers. They have parental and community support that fosters an environment of proficiency, creativity, and inquiry for critical citizenship in a global economy. Let's talk about leadership. So very important. So very important in the mayor's office to be the leader. I think it's important that I commit to you today that we are going to restore the Deputy Mayor of Education position because education is a priority for me as mayor next year. There will be oversight, there will be transparency, and there will be accountability for the Office of Education Innovation. Throughout the last 10, 11 months when I've been campaigning, I hear the phrase, bridging the achievement gap. Black and white children. Something I took to heart every time someone said something to me about it. There are issues that impact education such as poverty, hunger, and homelessness that must be addressed. We have to support our schools and implement solutions through school and community partnerships. A couple of years ago, the federal government passed an act called the McKinney-Vento Act. This allowed a representative in a school that would help a homeless youth find identification so they can start climbing the ladder of success in our community. This past session of the legislature, I wrote the bill and we passed the bill and the governor signed establishing the McKinney-Vento Act in these schools at IPS, and they will be in charter schools as well. early childhood education. On my way PK, on my way pre-K. We know it's underfunded. I will work with the General Assembly to get more funding. We know it's oversubscribed. I will advocate for more seats for eligible families in more high-quality centers. We know it's under-enrolled. We know this. I will strategize to reach more eligible families on my way pre-K. Let's talk about mayor-sponsored charter and innovation schools. As we've said, every child deserves a high-quality, high-performing school to attend. I promise you, there will be a rigorous, a robust public vetting process for new schools. I was heartened when I attended the Hope Academy presentation at the Charter School Board, Charter School Commission just last week. They asked some tough questions. If Hope Academy, which is born out of Fairbanks Hospital, would be an IPS, innovative charter school. I'm really glad they asked very, very questions, rigorous questions. Let's talk a little bit about transition. What happens when a charter school closes? We experienced this with Lighthouse High School this past May. For those who know me, when I heard this, I scattered, I scrapped together. I called Ball State. Bob Merritt is a friend of mine. We were trying to find out how we could get somebody to sponsor the additional school now, because it's been canceled, of Lighthouse High School on the Far East Side. Because just think about it, a junior graduating to be senior, all of a sudden may drop out of school. As well as Merritt High School, giving it up on July 31st. And all of a sudden, parents, teachers, students, all are in a chaotic world. With 4 or 5 days to go for school to start. What are those parents going to do? We will track, we will help transition kids and parents and teachers into new schools. Mayor-sponsored charter and innovation school boards. And thank you for your presentation. I heard it loud and clear. My administration, the Merritt administration, will require an increased presence of local citizens and community advisors on the school boards. It has to be local. The majority of the mayor-sponsored charter school boards should be made up of people from the communities they serve. Zero tolerance. Discipline. That will cease in charter schools. And I will work with IPS for the same. These practices have to end. They over-criminalize students of color, and it has to end. We're all concerned about mental health, but today we're concerned about mental health, African Americans, Black community. I will develop a school community intervention for all students. We will require mandatory mental health classes and mentoring programs. I am so impressed with Bawana Clements and Kareem Hines in the Indie Mentoring Network. They are doing good work. It could be a street corner, it could be a restaurant, but I hold those folks high. And they actually convinced me to get into a dunk tank at Arlington Middle School this summer, and I've never done that before in my 29 years. and it was a blast. I enjoyed working with the community and getting to know those two, and Kareem's wife, and many people that day. It was an exciting day for me because they included me. The public safety desert. The public safety desert. I'm gonna impart some statistics to you, and I do this with sadness and anger, compassion. Out of the 159 homicides in 2018, 117 victims were African American. 103 victims were African American males. And of the 82 cases that are still unsolved, 66 victims were African Americans. This is sad. And it also makes me mad. It says if it's overwhelming that if you're murdered in Marion County, more than likely you're African American. This has to stop. Public safety. We have to ensure transparency and accountability. I'll repeat, transparency and accountability. Community review of the citizens police complaint process. Address bias and improve cultural competency. Promote collaboration and visibility in the community. I will tell you that I will have office hours in every nook and corner of this county. I will also have Mayor's Night Out. We will have data collection meetings. People will see the mayor. People will be able to meet with the mayor. And they don't have to climb 25 stories to do so. We will also have internal diversity and professional growth opportunities. Very, very important part. We must balance crime control with community relations. And I think it's worthy for me to read this quote to you from Professor Tom Tyler, Yale Law School. There is a strong body of evidence that building legitimacy is a more effective way to ensure long-term support for and adherence to the law, both in the general community and among people with criminal backgrounds. We will have programs that build mutual trust. I'm really impressed with the State Commission on African American Males. We will have an Indianapolis Commission on the social status of African American males. I had a good chance to talk with Kenneth Allen at one of the church I visited on a Sunday, and he was chairman of the State Commission, and we will do the same good work as that commission at the state level. We will end the school to prison pipeline by working with grassroots organizations to help develop character, leadership, academic success, and self-esteem. We will have the promotion of rehabilitation and restorative justice for formerly incarcerated citizens. I am so proud of James Wilson at PACE. I'm so proud of Greg Kiesling at Recycle Force. I'm so proud of Kent Kramer at Goodwill. They are all doing good work, great work, and I'm sure there are many, many points of light out there doing the same. And the mayor's office will support them. We will also have police involvement in local school activities. Many, many years ago, I was the sponsor of the DARE program in Lawrence Township, and I found that to be very, very helpful. We will improve upon the system for mental health officers and personnel to dispatch in cases involving mental illness. We will have police participation in or police-led community events, adult and youth police academies. We will have sports teams or police athletic league. We will have ride-alongs with officers. And I will, as mayor, I will do that too. Economic inclusion, the desert of economics. While the Indiana unemployment rate dropped below the national average to 3.5%, the unemployment rate for African Americans in Indianapolis nearly doubled between 2018 and 2019, from 4.8% to 9.4%. This has to stop right here. Indianapolis is economically segregated. It is the sixth most economically segregated city in the country. In 1990, we were 53rd. In the area of minority business, for the past 4 years, MBE utilization goals of 15% have not been met. Have not been met. There are too many barriers to capital for too many of Indianapolis families. Almost 20% of the families in Marion County are below the poverty line. Almost 20% of the families in Marion County are below the poverty line. Just to go back, 2.9%, 4.8%, and now 9.1% for unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, that sticks on my forehead. Finally, the Merritt administration will have a tax incentive initiative. We will increase access to jobs. I will require corporations to earn their tax incentives from the city by hiring locally and to hire residents from low-income areas or empowerment zones similar to the work opportunity tax credit. I will build capacity by working with federal and state governments to offer small loans for minority businesses. The Merritt administration will reduce no bid contracts, period. We will strive for the 15% utilization and provide the data in a transparent way on the website. I will ensure we track prime contractor compliance. Prime contractors who abuse the minority business process will suffer financial penalties. These fees will be used to fund minority startups. I will encourage commerce through a program that will allow minority businesses to be advised on TIFs, new market tax credits, and real estate to increase development. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the deserts. Economic inclusion, education, and public safety. You have my word right here on this document. This is what the Merritt administration, this is what I will do starting on January 1st as mayor of Indianapolis. My thanks go to you for giving me this opportunity. and I'm happy to answer any questions. Who has the first question?
My name is Anthony Woodson, and I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I piloted the charter schools program at IPS in 2003. And Merritt, Duncan Pritchard, Ruth Miller fired me, terminated me after I piloted the program for 2 years. And then they hired high-powered attorneys, and it's been going, we've been disputing about who owns the Merritt-sponsored charter schools program, who designed it. I did. The Court of Appeals right here says, would you please read this? Read that. That's from the Court of Appeals.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, it's a question there.
I do. Would you please help me get this resolved? Would you read it?
Ma'am, she can't help you resolve that today. We're not trying to throw you off or anything.
Okay,
That's how-
I have the documents here. With the pilot program for the Positive Behavior Support Interventions Program, I designed it. Mary Jo Dare took it from me.
I hear you.
Dr. Mary Jo Dare and IUPUI took it from me. The position that I created, the program that I created for underprivileged children.
All right. Now, thank you
And
for
I
your
have been trying to get it resolved. Would you all please
Ma'am,
stand
ma'am,
with me
ma'am.
on this?
Ma'am, I am a state senator, and right now, I'm not mayor, but I will give.
They won't meet with me.
Wait, you didn't.
I can't get past their attorney.
Ma'am, I'm a state senator. I'm the #2 state senator in the Indiana Senate. I will give you a voice in the mayor's office pronto.
Would you read that?
No.
I will help you. I will
It
help
says,
We're not gonna do that, man.
it says,
We need,
we take the well-vetted allegations as true.
ma'am, we can't do that.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do. Because we want to be decent and in order.
I have a certificate of registration for the pilot program that they're talking about. Bart Peterson and the Mind Trust took it from me. They took it from me. They partnered with Indianapolis Public School Education Foundation Incorporated and took it from me. I know.
All right, here's how we're going to do the question and answer
How can they get money
portion of
for
this.
something and I not even get a job? How can they take it from me?
That would
They won't
be,
even hire me.
now here's what we're going to do for the question and answer, because one, at the most, we're going to try to get as many questions in as possible. Secondly,
Where's the compassion for me?
focus on your question, because I know many of you are so intelligent and gifted that you'll want to give us a lecture prior to your question. So I'm asking you to get to your question so that Senator Merritt can answer the question and not, spend time in other people's lectures. All right? To be sensitive to that, because we want to get as many as possible. And clergy, I certainly want to, so everybody will know, I will give them a preference because they are my colleagues. And as many of them are part of the Baptist Minister Alliance and the concerned clergy, all right? As well as our presenters who shared on the last time.
Pat President, did I say this in conjunction? We do want to make clear that we're very sympathetic in the young lady's plight. We're very sympathetic in it, but this is not that setting.
Exactly.
We just want to make sure everybody understands.
Right. All right. Minister Ajabu, quickly.
Yes, Senator Merritt, you made note that the city is not making the 15% that it's supposed to do with businesses owned by people of African descent. Because the city has not made that, and they say it's not a goal, they hope to make it. Would you support making it a set-aside to where it's that money, whether it is used or not, is set aside for businesses of African descent to prosper and hopefully make the crime go down in the community?
The question Mr. Jabu had was the 15% on minority business, correct?
Yes, sir.
Sir, is that what your question's about with the 15%?
Nah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir. If we will follow the law, and we will strive, we will have the 15% on minority business contracts.
But would you be willing to change the law to where instead it becomes a set aside, to where it's that no matter whether you do the business or not, the money is available for black businesses to develop?
I'm happy to discuss it and take it under consideration. I don't know what kind of money that is. That's kind of an open-ended question. But the bottom line is 15% is the law, and we will follow the law.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the young man in the back did.
Oh.
Go ahead. So you mentioned the murder rate in 2018. I'm just asking personally, what do you think are the 3 leading causes for the murder rate here in Indianapolis?
Well, I do believe it's economic. I do believe that it's drug. I think that we have a lack of, like for instance, when Ballard was mayor, he had the Office of Community Engagement. We need the relationships back. We need the mayor out there working in the community. We need a director of public safety who also is a deputy mayor. There are so many different parts of this that's a very large question. But come May 1st, we will be there. We will be in the grassroots working with the community and understanding the relationships, helping with conflict resolution. And I've been told that a lot of the murders have a lot to do with conflict resolution, have a lot to do with the drug trade, but I think it's a poverty issue as well. And I commit to you that we will put all our resources in prevention of and not get to this record-breaking number of murders.
Reverend Lipscomb?
Yes, sir. Mr. Merritt, I appreciate you stating that you would follow the law, but I do want to be very clear as an African-American male, I understand how the law can be interpreted. And it seems as though it's not being interpreted in a way that is fair to me and people who look like me. Now, when Reverend Jabu mentioned to you the 15%, and you said that you would follow the law, well, I work in the field of construction, and I'm an African-American, only one in the state who has a nationally accredited school. I understand that fact that even though the law has this way of being what it is, it's unfair as it is written because it states that you have to have some level of, I forget the exact language, but it's like a fair attempt to hire minorities, and if they don't do a good faith effort, just the words I was looking for, then we tend not to get the necessary contracts that we feel that, as you stated, you would try to help us. We would need the changing of the law for us to get what we need in order for that to take place. So as you being the mayor, would you be willing to look at, because some states say that if you don't honor the 15%, that the project doesn't move. So we need you as a mayor to say that there's not a good faith effort. If there's not 15%, then the project doesn't move.
I am all for clarifying the law. You have my commitment to clarify the law. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Earlier today, Bill Benjamin announced that if you are elected, you will serve as your police chief. Was choosing a black chief important in creating your black agenda?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I'll repeat it. Was in having a public invitation for Bill Benjamin to be the chief of police when I become mayor, and his acceptance today, is that a part of Black Agenda?
Yes.
The biggest priority for a mayor of Indianapolis is safety, keeping us safe and having us feel safe. Bill Benjamin is the best man for the job.
That's right.
And that is the solution. An outstanding man, and I'm looking very much forward to working with him. Well, yes, sir.
Larry, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Senator Merritt. You know, the property tax amendment and I think destroyed our Constitution, the property tax caps. That took corporations off the major funding of our education system here in the state of Indiana. What it actually done is it took
Larry,
them
get
off
to
the
the
hook.
question.
I'm getting
Now,
right
I'll
to it.
lecture.
It took them off the hook to pay the maintenance and the other building funds for the actual public schools. Do you think that that's going to help on down the line when we see more and more charter schools popping out and the actual common school system being reserved for the wealthy and the white members of our community, and we're sending our black kids into the prison pipeline?
Well, first of all, I'll refer you to the report when we talk about rigor and robust of what charter schools will appear.
Talk about property tax caps.
Property tax caps are in
I can
the,
see them, they're in our Constitution. They destroyed,
Okay, Larry.
They destroyed the district.
who else has a question? Yes, sir.
Are you willing to put a moratorium?
Oh,
Are you willing to put a moratorium on charter schools coming from the mayor's office?
The question was, am I willing to put a moratorium on charter schools coming into the mayor's office? No, I trust that the commission that we have, that I witnessed, will have a robust, rigorous process. I think it's important that we have local control, local access to charter schools. I'm certain that there's a feeling that we're oversaturated. I think it needs to be managed. I do believe that the deputy mayor for education has a big job in front of him or herself, and if it makes sense, we'll have another charter school, but if it's duplicative, we will not. And so it will be a process of rigor and there will be outside, meaning outside the mayor's office, input, Pastor Alexander.
Any other questions?
There was a question about property tax caps, and I've been in the legislature for 29 years now, and that is something that has harassed the legislature all the way to having the constitutional amendment. And we just experienced a referendum that spoke that the people of Indianapolis were able to speak their mind on funding for schools. And I think that was the right way to do it, so people could speak out, because obviously Indianapolis voted more money for schools, more money for teachers, more money for janitors, more money for schools. And I think, I honor that decision.
is that not more a state issue than a city issue?
It is, I don't, Mr. Ajaba, you know me well enough. I don't let a question go by.
Pastor?
I have a question.
Speak up, please.
Oh, yes. As a pastor and also as a military police officer, one of my major concerns in the city is that we don't have a public safety director, which is much needed in our city. And I also want to say about Benjamin, when Benjamin was a detective, he solved a lot of homicides.
And he was back.
And then for some reason, he was taken out of the, what would you do for him, and would you hire a public safety director?
Well, first of all, just to remind everybody, Bill Benjamin never lost a murder trial. His clearance rate was 81%. Right now, IMPD's was 44, is 44.3. We will have a public safety director in charge of law enforcement, fire, and EMS. Somebody that can be right by my side for 24/7. And Bill Benjamin will be our chief of police.
All right, good job.
Pastor Moore has a question.
The tax break that you plan to give companies that come in, are you giving us the idea for the Afro-American agenda here that you're going to create the old adage of set-aside programs again to take a contractor and possibly develop him into a prime contractor? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, and Pastor, I want everybody at the table. Right now, they're not. They're not at the table. And like I said, we will strive for the 15%, but as well as the fact that we will return to the days of Greg Wilson in the mayor's office, where everybody that is an MBE gets a legitimate opportunity to put their proposal out there, that they know where the new market tax credits are, where the TIF, where they can access the TIF money. We will have advisors helping people so they can access the system. We want open access to the system. Access is not happening now.
And the small business loan that you're talking about.
Yes.
If mayor, I think you need to revisit that. It's just not much you can do in this community with a small business loan. I think you need to readdress that. It sounds like you're giving us the shell and not the peanut. And so we want some of the peanuts and do away with those shells. That's the same logic that we experience today in these economic deserts. We get peanuts. Black community has all, we get the shells. We always get the shells, but we never get that solid peanut. And that's what we want to take place. We want to see this to take place.
Well, the essence of my proposal today is the peanut. Maybe I didn't word it correctly, but it's the peanut for the African American community.
What would a peanut be?
A peanut would be that they can come to the table and bid on these jobs, on these major jobs, and not get caught up in the mindset of those who get them always get them.
Access to capital?
Well, yeah, we talked about access to capital and getting rid of those barriers. And I'm having a hard time, Pastor, understanding what I put in my proposal that is not the peanut, because I get the peanut. We need to get people to the table to get the peanut.
Along that line, here's an
Yes,
idea. The end of the word, after the word, is small. How about just a business loan? And knock the small out, that would take care of that.
Let the church say amen.
We will correct it. Small goes away.
Good, that's a business loan.
Business.
All right, we need to get a couple of questions in here. Dr. Short and Dr. Walker in the back. Dr. Short.
So, Pastor Green, Pastor Alexander, 250 of us or so are part of the IPS Community Coalition. We've tried to raise issues with the IPS school district and with the mayor's charter schools that are getting completely rejected. It's like we can't say anything that means anything. Although if they would pay attention to us, they would actually, a lot of the issues we raised in our presentation that you heard, the coalition has raised over and over and over. And we're getting completely ignored. You know, it's like the door is totally shut. Any critique of anything related to the mine trust seems to be an outlaw presentation or something. We need for the leadership of the schools and the mayor's office to pay attention to community critique. Community critique can actually improve the quality of our lives. But if we have a door shut all the time we're raising issues, that's not going to help anybody.
You have my commitment to support you as mayor of Indianapolis. What does that mean? It means the zero tolerance policy we spoke about in the speech, in the remarks. But also, the idea the mayor of Indianapolis will dive into the middle of politics of IPS. I grew up with Mayor Lugar, Mayor Hudnut, Mayor Goldsmith, all who kind of put IPS and education to the side. My plan is to be right in the middle of it. As a state senator, I have about 22 elementaries in my Senate District 31. I have a program called Merritt Star Reader. And I go out and read to fourth graders. We talk about what they want to be when they grow up. We read the book by Coach Tony Dungy, You Can Do It. Then we ask everybody what they want to be when they grow up. I'm used to being in school systems. I met with Superintendent Johnson a month ago or so and offered my hand in partnership. I also asked them if I could meet with all of the township superintendents at least once a quarter, and they're welcome to meet in the mayor's office. I have a commitment to education, not just charter schools, and I will support so you have another voice in that process in IPS schools.
All right, Dr. Walker, then Dr. Howard. Dr. Walker?
Yes, sir. My question is kind of in line with what most questions have been raised. First of all, I want to thank you, thank the brothers and sisters for calling this wonderful meeting. My question is always centered around we all, especially people of color, we've heard the wonderful headlines. We've read them over the years. We've heard them spoken over and over. So mine is nothing new. Are you seriously committed to make a difference? And I know you got it on paper. I know
You have this.
saying-
You have this. And anybody that knows me in this room, and I've probably known King the longest in this room, this is my word. This is my bond. You have my word. I didn't come here just to get a vote. I came here to get your commitment to helping me put this proposal into action. We called it an oasis in the desert for a reason. But we want this to be an ocean. We want this to be successful. I want to be a successful mayor. And you have my word that this will be what we do when I become mayor of Indianapolis.
Dr. Howard?
I'm just breezing through it, but it seems a whole lot of the same to me. My concern is, as a Republican, you're asking for the black vote. Because you are here for a vote. So you're here for the black vote. Your past record, you're saying forget that and let's move forward now? Or are you saying judge you by your past record?
I'm asking everyone in this room to judge me by my integrity.
I'm talking about your record.
My integrity and my record.
Okay.
Last time you and I met, I didn't know if I actually convinced you yet or not. Not yet. Not yet, there, Pastor.
But I do like your Bill Benjamin.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. A lot of people do. May I finish? Yeah. On a serious note, you have my commitment that what we're saying here in this report is what we will do. We are looking forward, not back. And everyone knows in this room what I propose to do. And the glory of constituent service as a state senator is wonderful. Because you can go out and knock on doors and find out what's happening. Somebody sends you a bad email, you go visit them. The nice part about having office hours, I'm not real fond of the city-county building. The obvious with office hours, the obvious of mayor's night out, the obvious of data collection, the obvious of having an office of community engagement is I know what's going on out there and that people can talk to me. You shouldn't have to wait 4 years to scream at me about re-election.
All right, two last questions. Brother Miller had his hand up and Pastor Flood. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I need some clarification. When we heard a press conference that you put out before about adjusting the violence and crime, I heard you say swarm techniques. And our community, we already get swarmed. We heard that as stop and frisk. So we probably need some clarification on your proposed vision for how police will engage and work within our community. And last piece, I think Pastor Howard was mentioning it. We heard your proposal around waiving 14-year-olds to adult court.
Right.
That was going to impact our children. So we need to hear you, not just to judge me on my integrity, because your integrity is tied to your proposal there. We need to hear how you're gonna clarify the evolution so that your future legislative and programmatic agenda won't bring forward that philosophy that absolutely targets us. So
Excellent
how are you
question.
gonna change that narrative for us?
Excellent question.
Let's unpack that for a few minutes. Many people in this room know that I was the first one in Indiana really to figure out that opioids, in the legislature I'll say, opioids were killing our communities. Now I know in the Senator Greg Taylor reminds me all the time that this started happening in the black communities way before we started doing it. But in the legislature, I was the leader there. However, in the 90s, we were all about throwing kids and parents and grandparents in jail for the use of drugs. That has changed now. We want to rehab individuals. We want to give them the freedom. The same thing could be said about the 14-year-old and how we've changed. Society has changed with the 14-year-old going to adult court. I've changed with that. The second part about the swarm technique. That press conference had Pastor Jackson in back of me. That had Bill Benjamin in back of me. That had, actually there, I was standing with them that day, in fact. Paul Bateman, I was standing with Bill Benjamin that day. The barber shop, the gentleman who owns the barber shop was there. And those innocent lives were stamped out. I never said those words. Those words were put in my mouth. We are, and the architect of that public safety policy that we introduced that day was Bill Benjamin. And we were proposing the techniques that are accepted all around the country, including Indianapolis. And what we want is to, oh God, hopefully there's not another murder today. But if there were one, and I was mayor, the area would be swarmed, there would be interviews, all acceptable business, all acceptable police techniques would be displayed, and nothing about those two words that you just mentioned.
Dr. Clay?
Dr. Clay. Thank you, Senator, for coming today. Thank you for the depth of your presentation. Two quick things. If elected, and we know the future is uncertain, but from where you stand, should you be elected, is it your intent, would you make a commitment to this group that you will finish your first term in office?
Absolutely.
Secondly, I would ask, downtown has become the crown jewel of economic development. But our communities that make up the crown jewel of downtown off our tax dollars, our neighborhoods and communities are impoverished. The roads are bad, they are poorly covered, there is economic blight. We need an economic plan that restores communities and not just the crown jewel downtown. I'm asking you, will you begin to contemplate a commission or a committee that comes up with a comprehensive plan that really revitalizes, now I'm not talking about gentrification, regentrification.
That's the G word, we can't talk about that.
Yeah, but we don't want to talk about it, but we're living through it.
Exactly.
And I'm concerned that when we say we want something in our neighborhood, that what politicians hear is, okay, we're gonna come in, increase the property tax, or we're gonna make it impossible for you to live there, and we're gonna flip the neighborhood. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about enhancing the quality of life in our neighborhood through an economic driver that allows the people that want to stay in that neighborhood to stay in that neighborhood. And I think we need to begin to have a committee and a commission that comes up with concrete ways in which to ensure that that happens. Is that something you think you can do?
Absolutely, and it will look like Indianapolis. And economic development in neighborhoods is incredibly important. And you talk about the pads that we have, the Cary Bryant, but it's more of the corner of 40th and Boulevard. And seeing, small businesses grow, but as well as business loans. And yes, our neighborhoods, Indianapolis is made up of neighborhoods. And that is really the essence of our hospitality, of our generosity. And I've been in every nook and corner of Marion County since January 10th, and I've learned a great deal. And you have my commitment that we will focus on economic development in the neighborhoods of which you speak. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator Merritt, for coming and sharing with us on today.
I'd like to say, in conjunction with Dr. Howard, Senator Merritt, you are a legislative mind, and grassroots is very much different, I believe, than the legislative mindset. So you're going to need to be tutored if elected. And so that simply means that you're going to have to put a coalition together, such as Dr. Clay is talking about, not only for economic development in the community, and have a coalition together to help you, if you are elected, to maneuver through some of these areas. Because I think what I hear Dr. Howard saying is your track record is legislative and it's not as poised as we would like it to be, but are you willing to be tutored by faith-based people who are in the community to help you get through those areas?
Yes, in fact, I've been tutored for the last 10 months, and I expect 4 more years of it.
Okay. Dr. Howard, I hope I... Yes, you did.
All right. Now let me, because I know our time is up here, I want to remind us that this coming Monday, Mayor Hogsett will be here to present on and respond to the same deserts. And so we want to get this information out to our community because it's important. This is based on systemic racism. That means you need a system to address it.
That's right.
We will not get there just thinking it will magically happen. And so if leadership does not focus on it, things will not change. CICF and Brian Payne did a great job of presenting systemic racism, what it's created. We want to build off of that. I'm a firm believer in the CICF. I'm sure they're a great funder, etc. But to accomplish their objective over the next 5 years, it needs local government support. So we need to be clear in where a mayor would be regarding addressing that issue. Thank you all for your time. Hopefully you'll be able to make it Monday, the 21st at 12 noon. Same location.